Hi folks, hope you're all good. Quick video here about equality. So, I think it was a few weeks ago I saw a video by a YouTuber called Money and Macro, and it was called something like Why Inequality Isn't as Bad as We Thought. It's it came out about a month before this video, so I recommend you check it out. It's a pretty interesting video. So basically the video was looking at inequality of income, I think it was mainly. So inequality of income in societies, and the video was claiming it doesn't make a lot of difference to things we care about. Like, I forget what it is, the ones he pointed out were, I think one of them was happiness and wealth, like growth of income, like GDP, and a couple of other things. Crime, I think it was, yeah. So I found this video a little bit challenging as a huge fan of equality. So it got me on the trail of trying to look into the science myself, which I've always found quite tricky, but I've had quite a good experience looking into the science this time. I think in the last decade or so, scientists, academics, they've seemed to put more of their stuff online for free. So I've come across this site called Science Direct. I think they seem to be putting lots of scientific papers online for free without a paywall and all that shit. So hats off to them and the academic world generally for improving their game. So I looked, basically I was just using DuckDuckGo rather, this bog standard search engine thing. And I was writing in, let me tell you what I was writing in. I was writing in the effect, for example, the effect of income equality on average happiness. Literature review, that's what one of my searches was. Another one was the effect of income inequality on health. And I was kind of going with, as I went along these different searches, I was looking, just looking at the first 5 scientific papers I came across and using that as a judge of what the science thinks about the links between these various parameters. So I think first of all I looked at the link with does inequality of income cause increased growth, like growth of GDP or not? And with that, I think it was pretty mixed results. I found this paper, I think, that summarized. Actually, I don't think I found the first 5 on that one. I was just honing my art on this thing, and I found, I think, one paper which was a review of lots of other papers, and that seemed to be show tons of papers and lots of very differing results. Like some say that increased equality of income was making growth bigger, and some were saying smaller, and some were saying some nuanced things, some couldn't find any effect. So I don't think there's any, egalitarians can't gain much from that, and neither can inegalitarians. But I would say, I mean, I was brought up in a world where I think I was hearing a lot, basically the idea, well, that's what I seemed to absorb when I was younger, is the idea that inequality does spur wealth. But I remember when I was about 20, I wasn't sure whether I was going to be, whether I wanted to be left wing or right wing. And I think the big dilemma in my mind then was like, basically, the right wing are good at creating wealth, but the left are good at dishing it out in an equal way, which is nice. So I think the idea that the right doesn't have that argument, I think, is a sort of little gain for the left or the egalitarians, as far as I'm concerned. So then I looked at some other stuff which I just touched on. So the effect on happiness was a bit disappointing. I think the first 5 papers I looked at, one said that equality of income leads to greater happiness. I think one said less happiness, and the other 3 couldn't find a link. So for me, that's a little bit of a paradox. It just seems pretty intuitive to me that equality is a sort of nicer state where we're being kind of more civil to each other, and also doesn't that sort of help with acute kind of absolute sort of poverty situations? So a little bit surprising to me that it doesn't create happiness. I should definitely look into that more. But it isn't really a point against equality either, because inequality is no better on this front according to this science. So then I looked at a few other things that I heard equality helps with, and I did find those opinions of mine were actually confirmed. So when it comes to health, it looks, I think the first 5 papers I looked at, the first 4 of them said health gets better when you got greater equality of income. I think one said the opposite, so we'll take that as probably helps health. And then looked at interpersonal trust. I think I might have read about this stuff years ago in this book called The Spirit Level. And interpersonal trust, I think the 5 papers I looked at all said that interpersonal trust gets better when you've got equality of income. And I think, what was the last one? Oh yeah, crime, that's right. Crime, I found, all the papers I looked at, all the first 5 said crime goes down if you have greater equality of income. Now, I think there is some nuance there. I think the original video I mentioned, Money and Macro, did point out that I think violent crime, at least according to some research, violent crime isn't affected by inequality, but theft is. Actually, Money and Macro could have mentioned that, because I think he's mentioned that in a video he did before, which was on crime, and that equality does affect crime, does affect theft at least. So I think, but the papers I was looking at, I think some of them at least were claiming even violent crime is affected by it, or some might have been saying the opposite, like violent crime is affected by equality and the theft isn't, is it? I can't remember now. I'll put all the links anyway. Oh, actually, sorry, I didn't save those links. I think when I looked at crime, I just found 5. You have to believe me on that. To do the searches yourself. But there's a mixed picture of what exact crimes are affected and how. But the consensus seems to be going that way. So basically, my conclusion is that I guess I've distempered my love of equality a little bit, but I still think there's plenty of things. I mean, the search I did in general here favors equality, so the science does back up equality. But I'm still going on a bit of a hunch, because I believe in much more radical equality than is being looked at in these situations. So I'm a bit more like, I don't see why radical equality wouldn't be good, but let's try it, rather than that I absolutely know it will be better. But I think it's worth a try, because how much would trying it out doesn't cost that much. And then we'll kind of find out. Also, when I'm talking about equality, it's not just equality of income. We're also talking about equality of power. So I tried to look into that. There's kind of less clear sort of research on that, because it's less easy to measure, maybe. Oh, I don't know why. It's a bit more radical in a way as well. I did find one paper, though it was one paper, so maybe it doesn't prove that much, but which was saying that non-hierarchical kind of organizations seem to be working just as effectively as hierarchical ones. So there's one going my way there, or at least sort of busting the myth that you need a bit of hierarchy for things to work. So I think that's about it, really. I just thought I'd just share that what I've been doing. I think it does make me more positive about looking at the science, trying to be more scientific and objective about these things. And I'm pleased that the internet has made it easier than it used to be, because I think 10 years ago I was trying to do these things and finding it a bit more difficult because of paywalls and papers being obscurely written when you actually get to them, or me not having really the technical ability to read some of these papers on economics and stuff. So things seem to have got better on that front, and I'm still pressing ahead with my equality loving, but I'll probably try and be a bit more objective about it in future. So anyway, hope you found that interesting. All the links will be below. All the best.